They say some doors are never meant to be opened. But on the night of Ikondeo's wedding, he threw open the biggest door of all, and invited in something his ancestors had warned him about since childhood. The drummers were still beating, the palm wine still flowing, when the crowd turned to see her. No one knew her face, yet her beauty was enough to hush even the loudest elder. She wore a deep red wrapper that shimmered under the moonlight, and in her eyes, a fire that promised either love or destruction. And as she stepped into the circle of dancers, the old women whispered one name, Abeni, the woman no man dared marry, or even bring close. Ikondeo was the only son of the great hunter, Boba Kolod, in the village of Ayatoro. From birth, the oracle had said he was destined to bring two worlds together, though no one knew whether they meant the world of the living and the dead, or the world of peace and chaos. Growing up, Ikondeo was loved by all. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a smile that could win over even the most stubborn elder. But he also had a secret, one he carried since he was 15. That secret was Abeni. Abeni was not like the other girls in the village. She appeared one rainy evening at the edge of the forest, claiming she had no home. She spoke with a voice like music, but when she laughed, the elders swore they heard the echo of drums that no one was playing. Men chased her, but all who came close met strange fates. A hunter's spear broke mid-hunt, a trader's canoe sank on a calm river, a farmer's yam harvest rotted overnight. The elders called her Omo Eshu, child of the trickster spirit. But to Ikondeo, she was irresistible. Years passed. Ikondeo became a respected young man, and the village rejoiced when he announced he would wed Adizwa, a kind-hearted maiden from a family of healers. The marriage was said during the festival of New Yams, a time when blessings flowed freely. On that night, the whole village gathered. The drums spoke of joy, the smell of roasted yam and pepper soup filled the air, and Ikondeo's mother smiled brighter than the moon itself. But Ikondeo had made a decision. He told no one, not even his bride, that he had sent a secret invitation to Abeni. He wanted her to witness his new life, to see that he had moved on. But in the world of spirits, such invitations are not easily refused. The first sign was the sudden wind. Palm oil lamps flickered, the talking drum faltered. Then, from the darkness beyond the firelight, Abeni emerged. She moved like water, slow, graceful, yet unstoppable. Her red wrapper dragged lightly across the earth, and the gold beads around her ankles jingled like warning bells. The elders shifted uncomfortably. The old women began to murmur prayers under their breath. Adizwa, the bride, smiled politely, thinking perhaps she was just another guest. But Ikondeo could not meet her eyes. Abeni did not sit. She walked straight into the center of the celebration, stopping between Ikondeo and his bride. "Won't you offer me a drink?" she asked, her voice soft, but the drummer's hands froze in mid-beat. Ikondeo's mouth went dry. He handed her a calabash of palm wine, but as her fingers brushed his, the liquid inside turned dark, like blood under the moonlight. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Adizwa's smile faded. The chief priest, Baba Ajoni, rose from his seat, clutching the staff of the ancestors. Baba Ajoni's voice thundered. "Ikondeo, do you know the shadow you have brought to your own feast? This is no guest of man, she belongs to the spirits." But before Ikondeo could respond, Abeni laughed, a sound so sweet it almost masked the fear crawling up everyone's spine. "I came only to bless your union," she said, eyes locked on Ikondeo. "But blessings come in many forms." And with that, the wind picked up again, carrying the smell of rain though the sky was clear. Adizwa stepped back, gripping her beaded necklace. The villagers whispered, some urging the drummers to play again to chase away the bad omen, others quietly making their way toward the shadows, ready to flee. But Ikondeo stood frozen. Because in that moment, he realized something. Abeni had not aged a single day since he first met her, over 10 years ago. The wind howled again, and the lamps around the compound flickered. The drums had fallen silent, but the sound of Ebony's anklets filled the air, as if every step she took carried a hidden rhythm. She stood between Ikondeo and Adizwa, her eyes glistening like wet stones at the bottom of a river. Every gaze in the compound turned toward her, yet she seemed untouched by the weight of so many stares. She tilted her head slightly, smiling as if she knew every secret in the hearts of those watching. "Ikondeo," she said, her voice smooth as freshly tapped palm wine, "it has been a long time." The name on her lips sent a shiver through him. He swallowed, forcing a smile, and handed her the calabash. She took it, her fingers brushing against his. The moment she touched it, the clear wine shifted, darkening to the color of old blood. Gasps erupted from the crowd, some clutching charms around their necks, others muttering quick prayers. Adizwa's grip tightened on her necklace, but she said nothing. Her eyes darted between her husband and this strange woman who radiated an unsettling beauty. The chief priest, Baba Ajoni, stepped forward, leaning heavily on his staff. His white robe swayed in the wind as he stared at Ebony with eyes that had seen the world of spirits many times before. "You walk where you are not welcome," his voice boomed. "Your feet should not touch this ground on such a night." Ebony's laughter rang out like the tinkling of glass beads in a gourd. "Priest, I came only to bless what is already bound. Would you refuse the blessing of one who walks between worlds?" Some of the younger men in the crowd shifted uneasily. Blessings from the living were welcome, but blessings from the in-between were dangerous. They could lift a man high or crush him in the dust. Ikondeo's mind raced. He had thought himself clever, inviting Ebony to prove he had no fear of the past. Yet here she was, unchanged by the passing years, her presence as intoxicating and dangerous as ever. The elders had told stories of such beings, spirits who wore human skin like a garment and slipped into the lives of men who thought themselves untouchable. The sky above remained clear, but the air grew heavy, thick with a smell like wet earth after a storm. Ebony raised the calabash to her lips and drank. When she lowered it, her gaze lingered on Adizwa. "She is beautiful," Ebony said, her tone light yet edged with something sharp. "A healer's daughter. Such hands are skilled at mending broken things, but can they keep what is already theirs?" A ripple of unease swept through the crowd. Adizwa straightened her back, meeting Ebony's stare without flinching. "What is mine does not need mending," she replied calmly. Ebony's smile deepened, but her eyes did not warm. She circled slowly, the beads at her ankles ringing with each step. The villagers moved back, creating space as if afraid her shadow might brush against them. Baba Ajoni struck his staff against the ground 3 times, each strike echoing like distant thunder. "Leave now, before you bring what cannot be undone," he commanded. But Ebony only tilted her head toward Ikondeo. "Will you send me away, on the night you should honor every guest?" His heart pounded. The whispers of the crowd closed in on him like tightening vines. If he sent her away, he would offend a being whose wrath no man could predict. If he let her stay, he risked more than the peace of his marriage, he risked the safety of the entire village. The drummers, unsure of what to do, struck their instruments hesitantly. The sound came out uneven, almost reluctant, but it filled the silence for a moment. Ebony swayed gently to the beat, her eyes never leaving Ikondeo's face. Somewhere in the shadows beyond the firelight, an old woman watching muttered, "The hunter has brought the leopard to his own feast." And deep inside, Ikondeo realized the night was no longer his wedding night. It had become something else, something the ancestors themselves might be watching. The moon hung high, its silver light catching on Ebony's beads as she reached into the fold of her wrapper and drew out a small, carved figure. It was made of dark wood, polished smooth, with cowrie shells for eyes. She held it out in her palm. "This," she said softly, "is my gift." The crowd leaned forward, their breath held. Gifts from the spirit world could be blessings of great fortune or curses that clung to generations. Ikondeo's fingers trembled as he reached toward it. But before he could touch it, The wind roared through the compound again, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to hum with a deep, vibrating sound, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Somewhere far off, a dog began to howl. The wind refused to die down. The flames of the oil lamp stretched thin, flickering as though they wished to flee. Ebony stood motionless, the carved figure still in her palm, her gaze fixed on Ikondeo. He hesitated, his hand hanging in the air. Behind him, Adizwa whispered, "Do not take it." Her voice was firm but trembling. Baba Ajoni stepped closer, planting himself between Ikondeo and Ebony. His voice cut through the night. "Whatever comes from her hand is bound with her spirit. If you take it, you take her into your home, and into the lives of your children yet unborn." Ebony's smile thinned, the beads at her ankles falling still. "Priest, you speak of bonds as if they are chains. Some bonds bring power, protection, wealth beyond measure. But her words carried a cold edge. Even the youngest child in the crowd could hear it." Adizwa moved to stand beside her husband. Her fingers slipped into his, gripping tight. "We asked the ancestors to bless us," she said, her voice strong now. "We did not call the wind, nor the shadow it carries." Murmurs of agreement rose from the villagers. Some began to stamp their feet in a slow, steady rhythm, a call to the earth to reject the unwanted spirit. Others whispered prayers into the hems of their garments. Ebony's eyes narrowed. "So, this is how you honor one who has shared your fire before. You close the door, you turn your face away." Ikondeo's heart twisted. Once, long ago, he had been drawn to her like a moth to flame. But standing there, with Adizwa's hand in his and the weight of the village watching, he understood the truth: some fires are meant only to destroy. He drew a deep breath. "Ebony, I thank you for coming. But tonight is not yours. My life is no longer yours to walk through." The air seemed to grow heavier. For a moment, her expression softened, and something unreadable passed across her face. Then, as if a cord had been cut, the wind stilled. The carved figure in her palm cracked down the middle, releasing a faint wisp of smoke that vanished into the night. She turned without another word, her beads clinking softly as she walked toward the darkness beyond the compound. No one followed. No one dared. When she was gone, the drums began again, not loud and joyous, but slow and steady, as if honoring a battle fought and won. Baba Ajoni lifted his staff high and spoke. "Let this night be remembered," he declared. "Not for the shadow that came, but for the choice that sent it away. For in the life of a man, the greatest strength is not in the spear he throws, but in the temptation he refuses." The villagers nodded, and the celebration resumed, but there was a different air to it now, quieter, more mindful. Ikondeo held Adizwa close, feeling the warmth of her hand and the steady beat of her heart. He knew the story of that night would be told long after their children's children walked the earth. And in every telling, the lesson would remain clear. Never invite the past into a feast meant for the future. If you gained something from this video, like and subscribe.